Oh, there's 6. There we go. Hey, everybody. We see people coming on in. I'm going to give it a few minutes, just a minute or two. I like to start on time. Why promote bad behavior by showing up late? We'll be monitoring the QA as we go through this, and try to get answer a bunch of questions live. Or Jeff Johnson, as a moderator, will even throw some questions out to Tom and Steve and Rich. And with that, kind of still have people coming in, but let's go ahead and get going. Let me start record on this.
Hey, while you're starting the recording, this is Tom. Why don't a few of you put in your names and where you're coming in from, where you're dialing in from? That's always kind of
On the
fun
QA
for me to
or
see.
the chat.
We're going to monitor them both, right?
Yeah, some people like chat better.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Hey, everybody, put in your name, where you're from.
I'll start out here.
And what's the best thing that happened to you today?
I woke up this morning.
How was your coffee?
Hello, or should I say I woke up on time? Yeah, it was one of those.
Ireland. Hey, welcome, Luke. New York City. Awesome.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a panic moment this morning. The first thing, I got an email from someone who was wishing to attend that thought it was at 8 o'clock. And I was like, if it's now, I'm late.
Let's see, got cool, an international audience, Guatemala. My best friend's wife's from Guatemala.
That's awesome.
Let's see, Omaha, is that in the States?
Good morning, London, from London. Good afternoon from London.
Chat is disabled. Okay, so we'll just go Q&A. Cool.
North Carolina. I was just in North Carolina. I went to Pinehurst golfing last week. In South Carolina. Bangalore. Awesome. Hey, let's get started. Hey, everybody. My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm here with Rick Severson from Stratodesk and Tom Fenton. They're our main subject matter experts. And I'm just going to kind of MC and kind of push these guys to really find out the truth in having a better thin client experience. Because in my whole career, I've been managing and selling tools and optimization tools and systems that are configuration manager and all that stuff. And I know for a fact that thin clients had a way better ROI. They're really much easier to manage and deploy than a thick client, but they still have some problems, right? Rick, I think you'd attest to that right up. I mean, it might even just be a network problem or things like that, right? Which happen to both thin and thick clients.
There's all kinds of things. You never know. Environmental issues, Wi-Fi, home issues, on-network issues, all kinds of things. Yeah, exactly.
So they're not perfect. They could be way better than a thick client. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And these two companies, ControlUp and Stratodesk together, better together, working through this. Just to kind of set the stage. We know that things are growing, the complexity, the cost. What we've kind of boiled down to in the simplest form at ControlUp with Stratodesk is it really kind of comes down to cost savings on troubleshooting, and then we'll focus on tickets. How do I troubleshoot, remediate? But then I can also try to prevent tickets. But with all this, getting new tools and implementing new things, we know that the cost and complexity and the budgets are kind of really hard to come by right now. So what we're kind of focusing in on this webinar for thin clients is reducing the time it takes to troubleshoot and remediate thin clients. How to solve problems before they become a trouble ticket, and how to streamline the operations. Rich, let's bring this up to you, and just let me know when you want me to click through your slides. I think you have about 5 slides. We're just going to zip through, and we're going to get to a lot of demo, a lot of QA here toward the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jeff, and good morning. And Tom, good morning to you as well. And I'm Rich Severson, the VP of Solutions Engineering at Stratodesk. And one of the things to think about when you're going through these deployments of endpoints, right? A lot of people call them thin clients. We tend to like to call them endpoints because they're not necessarily traditional thin clients anymore, right? They could be repurposed PCs, all those kinds of things. So, the first thing you want to do about solving tickets is have an ease of deployment. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Jeff. So it's important to understand, what Stratodesk is to begin with, and then as we dig into the support side and how ControlUp makes it a little bit better, right? First, let's understand what is Stratodesk, right? We are a high performance Linux operating system that goes on endpoint devices, x86, x64, those kinds of things. And then we have No Touch Center, which is the management platform. And those two things together are the ease of deployment for getting the devices out there to begin with, right? So go ahead and go to the next slide, Jeff. And we're going to jump through these slides. Like I said, we're not going to make this a great marketing thing, right? But it's important to understand, right? So Stratodesk, we're hardware agnostic. So again, we can go on just about any hardware, including Raspberry Pi devices. There's some of the partners there that we have others as well. But it's about the software and the No Touch Center combined. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Jeff. And like I said, we're going to click through these, right? And it's important to understand the platforms, right? We're agnostic there as well. We support, Citrix, VMware, WVD or AVD now that people call it, right? Amazon Workspaces, Nutanix, Microsoft. We support all these different platforms, even devices that are not necessarily using VDI. There's a lot of people out there today, certainly when it comes to the work from home kind of thing, they're all browser based, right? So it's about having a secure, high performance environment that provides a great experience to the users. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so, it's about the devices and the use cases combined. Like I said, there's the VDI users, there's the home users that have no VDI involved, there's the combination, there's IoT, there's BYOD. There's so many variations of how Stratodesk and endpoints are being used today by the users, for the cloud desktops, if you will, right? So again, it's about getting those out there, being able to manage them, control them, and then take advantage of what ControlUp can bring along with that to monitor and make the end user experience even better. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So the solution overview again, right? So No Touch Cloud can be an option, right? So the management platform can be in the cloud, it can be on-prem. And one of the cool things too is you can actually use ControlUp to manage and monitor your management server, right? So now we can have No Touch Center, managing and provisioning those devices, those endpoint devices that are on network, work from home. And then you add ControlUp and you can monitor, including, we'll talk a little bit about, being able to monitor the user's Wi-Fi kind of stuff. So, all right. And Jeff, go ahead and go to the next slide. So that's kind of a quick summary of Stratodesk. And that's from this webinar perspective. That's all we want to do is just have a quick high level overview of what Stratodesk is. And then we'll dig into, Tom and I'll go in more about how we manage, the tickets and the supportability stuff. So, all right.
That's awesome.
So that's me.
I was thinking a little bit when you were talking. Tom and I were just working with a customer who had 9,000 thick client or endpoint devices, and so there's 9,000. It was around 2,500 or 3,000 of those. They were older laptops. They were having performance issues running the day-to-day, Zoom and Office and Teams and yada yada yada. They're having major problems running all of that. And those would have been, and it's really cool because Tom and I took all this data from ControlUp and we were analyzing all this. And we're like, you know what, this would be great for Stratodesk. Like this would be a perfect deployment then to launch a web-based OS on these devices, rather than their only other alternative was to buy replace another 2,500 devices.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to take, again, like a Stratodesk high performance OS where we've locked it down, made it secure, eliminated the bloat from the operating system.
Yeah.
And as Tom will show, right, this is what allows us to take some of that legacy hardware and revitalize it, I guess, if you will, right? Because now it's going to perform better than it originally did because the OS that was originally deployed had so much bloat and so much extra stuff that it didn't need that
Right.
caused the devices to run slower. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's quite kind of cool.
All right, real quick on ControlUp. So we are a digital employee experience management platform. And this is kind of a newer term over this last year from like Gartner, and then Forrester calls it a little something different. And it's really taken all these things, all these metrics from physical endpoints, from VDI and DAS, webs, SaaS and web apps, and then unified comms, and bringing all those together and putting them up into a cloud environment. So then we can look at things like analyzing, correlating, remediating, and automating. So we focus on that employee. We focus on trying to figure all that out. But in talking to customers, a lot of them aren't ready for DEX, or they want to know how to get to a digital employee experience platform. And so we started breaking that down and saying, okay, the first thing we have to do is if you have too many tickets, how do we close tickets faster? MTTR. That's really simple. Then once we kind of solve that problem, how do we proactively reduce tickets? Through automation, through notifications, things like that. Once we do that, then we can do tool consolidation, software reporting, hardware refresh justification like we talked about. Then we can work on DEX, that user experience score, your user activity monitoring, employee sentiment reporting. It's all this, it's like a Maslow hierarchy, but you got to take care of at least these first two right away. So let me just zip through a couple slides here. At ControlUp, we do real-time monitoring, real-time metrics of these devices that go up to the cloud. It makes troubleshooting easier. I hate it when the first thing that someone says when you call help desk is reboot your machine, or let me make sure you have patches. How do you know that will fix my problem? You don't. You are guessing. You are totally guessing this is going to fix my problem. Unless I have a tool that has historical content-rich data that points me, that gives me the ability to correlate events off all of my performance metrics, whether it's network, OS, applications, and device. And once I put all those together in a timeline, then I can start to see what the actual root cause is to give me actual remediation, and then I can do that through scripts. I can prevent tickets from even happening. So I can, if I have, we all have things that go wrong all the time. It's the same thing that goes wrong with all my customers, but I have the same fix for it. Well, if I know what's going wrong and I can event off what's going wrong, and I have a script to fix it, then whenever that event happens programmatically, I can programmatically say, have that script fix that issue. So these all help me have less tickets. And then when I think about reduced time and money, we're all about consolidating troubleshooting tools. Tom will show you a little bit about how our tool does VDI and physical, and how we all manage all of those devices and the endpoint devices, thick or thin, Stratodesk, all of that. So we also look at this as when we escalate things, sometimes we escalate to the networking team who never gets back to us. Well, we have our networking tools built in here for our help desk to do some of their own analysis. So this is when we really get to shine. Let me stop my share. Tom, are you ready?
I am ready.
And we'll do some demos to really kind of bring this home. And this is where we make this a lot more interactive. So we're monitoring the Q&A here.
Yep, I was going to say,
going.
And I was going to say, Jeff, and there's one up front real quick that says, is Stratodesk similar to IGEL, Endpoint, HP, and Dell devices? So the first thing to understand about that is Stratodesk does not provide any hardware. We're a software-only company. So in some aspects, we are similar, but, of course, being with Stratodesk, I would say we're certainly a better product.
That's very fair. And that's a great answer. No hardware. I didn't, I don't think I
Yeah.
realized.
Yep, we're no hardware.
All right. Hey, Tom, what are we looking at here?
All right. Yep. By the way, thanks for those questions. I see a few others here I'm going to pick off. And, feel free to put those questions in the Q&A. We'll either answer them in real time. We'll defer to an appropriate place in the presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll try and do a wrap up of everything. Does that sound good, guys?
Yep.
All right. And I do see a few questions here I want to knock off. It looks like Anna from Canada. This one actually looks like it's geared to you, Rich. She says, does the hardware just support the vendors that you listed, or can it run on any x86 computer?
We can actually run on any x86, x64 computer. We can actually do ARM being the Raspberry Pi, so they're ARM HF devices.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can repurpose other vendors' thin clients, laptops, as Jeff mentioned, breathe those hardware devices back to life.
All right, fantastic. Jeff, there's a question from a gentleman in Bangalore. Can you pronounce that name for me? And it's actually geared to Rich. I'm horrible at names, so I rely on Jeff to pronounce names. What's that name, Jeff? Nilish?
Shashindar.
Ah, okay. Well, thank you. And this one's also geared to you, Rich. It says, can you talk a little bit more about your AVD integration?
So AVD integration from Stratodesk is just like the Citrix client or the Horizon client, right? Microsoft provides an SDK to us. And then with that, we develop a client that allows the endpoints to connect to Microsoft AVD or 365.
All right, fantastic. Demo, yeah, we'll get to demo in just a second. Let me just clear these questions. Is this SaaS on Stratodesk Cloud? Is subscription? Our product is definitely SaaS based, real easy to install. Most people can get it up and running in 5 minutes. You just install the agent on the devices that you want to monitor. And then contact sales folks, and we'll get you set up with a tenant. And like I said, it's totally SaaS based. You don't need to do anything on the infrastructure, in infrastructure on that. Question for you, Rich. How about Mac hardware? Can no touch OS run on that?
I can't say that I could speak for Macs explicitly, but I would say if it's Intel based, I would say we'd probably give it a shot. I don't know for certain, but we can certainly send it into support. We'll take a look at it.
All right, great. Wow, great question.
I see a question on here, Thomas says, when can we have a demo?
All right, yeah.
We're trying to get there.
Yeah, trying to get there. Got the questions here. Stratodesk Cloud?
Yeah, so Stratodesk No Touch Center can be in the data center, or it can be on cloud. It can be in your cloud, our cloud. We can host it for you. You can host it yourself. And then, of course, it is either perpetual or subscription. Depends on you. That's what's called No Touch Flex.
Okay, another one. Thanks for these.
Sorry, guys.
Questions.
Oh my gosh, let's get in the demo, and I'll answer. I'll start typing them.
Okay.
In. Get the demo,
Yeah,
Tom.
I was gonna say. Yep, I can do this.
All right, great. So keep an eye on the answers in the Q&A. So what we're looking at here is the EdgeDX portal, web-based, totally SaaS. This is the home screen. We have a few drop downs we can look at to find problems real quick. For example, the Wi-Fi signal. This one in red means that they're having some issues there. Green means good. Same with CPU load. Just let you find things real quick there. And from here, we can, if you want to go to a specific location and take a look at the devices and locations, maybe you have someone in Vancouver, Washington, who's having some issues. One way you can do to it is just, use the geolocation to go to it. We see a lot of devices, so I'm going to go ahead and filter these out. I'm just going to take a look at the online devices, and I'm going to take a look at this Stratodesk, because we do support other vendors other than Stratodesk. We support Windows devices as well, and Mac OS devices. So Here we have all the Stratodesk devices. Looks like we're having some problems here. You know, red means bad. Looks like network latency issues in this one where it's 120 milliseconds. So something is not going well there. And we have something not going well with the Wi-Fi on Stratodesk.
Hey, Tom,
And
didn't you come up with a thing where if your Wi-Fi gets below 60%, you lose like 80% usability?
yeah, I think it's actually 60%. It's not a lateral type of thing.
Yeah, at 60%, you lose 80%, something like that.
Yeah. So it's really bad. And over the pandemic, we saw all these people working from home, working remotely. And one of the biggest problems we've seen, and I think Rich can probably chime in on this as well, is people just don't realize how low their Wi-Fi signal is.
Yeah.
We've had companies, what that one company sent out Cat5 cables, 50-foot Cat5 cables to
They
people. It
did.
got so bad. Yeah.
They sent out 1,000 50-foot Cat5 cables to all their employees and said, heck with your wireless.
Yeah.
I'm sure that went over well with spouses having wires laying across the house, right?
No,
So,
Yeah.
and real quick, Tom, because we kind of jumped right by it. So one of the things real quick for everybody to understand. So with No Touch OS, it's you go into No Touch Center. There's 4 settings for setting up HDX. Literally, it's where is the tenant? What is the tenant ID number? And start the service, reboot the device, and it starts reporting into the ControlUp console. And then you'll start seeing all of these metrics come in. And that's the advantage of the two companies together, right? We don't do the monitoring. That's what ControlUp does. So.
Yeah,
You do the
exactly.
deployment and the configuration. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just real easy. Like you said, Rich said, you just kind of a few clicks and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and dive into one of these devices, this Stratodesk Dell 750. It's actually a repurposed 750 that I bought from Dell for like $100. So it's a classic case. You know, companies that don't want to spend a lot of money can go out there and find these deals on these older devices and use them to Optiplex. This top line kind of shows the basic information, what kind of device it is, you know, basic information like this. And then we get into the device score. And this is a super metric that gives you an overview of how well your device is doing. It's built up of different devices. And in this case, you can see by hovering over it that the Wi-Fi signal is, you know, 80%, and that's why it's not at a 10 on it. And yeah, actually go down here. Yeah, the Wi-Fi signal dipped down to 63%. We also saw a big spike in CPU usage here, which could be a problem, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But this network usage, and you can see, I think someone asked this question, you can see all these little micro spikes in a network usage, you know, 0.01 megabytes per second. And what that is that's when our agent ships the information from the device to the cloud so we can create these graphs and things. So it's a really small footprint process, and it doesn't take a whole lot of networking activity. That was a question someone asked. That's the answer to that. And then we can also scroll down here and we can see the network Wi-Fi signal isn't doing so good. And let's go back last 7 days and scroll down here, and we saw a degradation at it about right here. And what happened is I took the antenna off this device. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back on, and we collect metrics in real time. So in about a minute, we'll start to see that improve.
You didn't put it in microwave this time, Tom?
Yeah, yeah. My wife wanted her microwave back, so I had to move that back downstairs. So just
really good
removing
isolation.
And let's put this in a little bit of context, Tom. Right? Why this is important to the people that are watching here, right? I mean, what's important is think about this. You've got a user, whether that user's in the office or and somebody's walking by with some magnetic device or what have you, or the user's at home. and they start to say, hey, my Teams isn't working or my Zoom isn't working, at certain times of the day or what have you, right? So, certainly, we can make sure that the configuration is set. We can make sure that the device has all the proper settings, but we can't, Stratodesk, we can't tell what happened to the Wi-Fi at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And so having the ControlUp agent running in No Touch OS and reporting to the ControlUp console is going to give you those metrics, and you can go back and look and say, hey, at 9 o'clock every morning, your Wi-Fi goes down to 10%. What's happening? So now you can have a little more insight and help the user experience figure out what's actually going on.
Yep, exactly. And we even report information like the BSSID, not only the SSID. So the BSSID, this is a little bit geeky, sorry, I'm going down this trail. But for mesh networks, which everyone's using now, so you can actually pinpoint the node. If you have one node going down or having problems, we can see that. And we actually had a customer who had those kind of issues.
Yeah, they had a cert issue on one of their mesh nodes that no one could connect to. So then there is jumping to the other one, which was which had a really weak signal. So they were used, and the networking team didn't know the problem, but they used ControlUp to figure it out.
Yeah. Yep. And I gotta hand it to you, Rich, and we're going to look at some slides a little bit later on about CPU usage. You guys are very efficient on CPU usage. Usually, a device like this 10-year-old 750, I see like 5-10% CPU usage. So it's definitely something funky is going on here with this guy, where it's using 50%, and we can drill down in it and figure out why. We just go ahead and hover over it, and it'll enlarge it, and then I can oh, right there. Okay, so we can see the processes, and so we see the K worker. That's a Linux process that goes on. It's using 73%, and that's usually just spiky. But I think the problem is that DD command is using 50% of the CPU cycles. And we can take a look at the active processes. We have that kind of introspection into the device. And sure enough, this DD command is just, using a full core, basically, because this is a 4-core system. So it's using 25% of the CPU or a full core. And if we don't want that to happen, we can just go ahead and kill it.
Kill it, Tom, kill it.
Kill it with extreme prejudice there. That's a kill minus.
Kindness, kill it with kindness.
Yeah, no, I'm doing a kill -9 there. And so you can see what's going on, that introspection into it. Oh, let's see, show processes, active processes. We killed that guy. Let's go back to the performance. And yeah, this will go back down in just a second here. But we don't want to sit there and monitor this all the time and look at these screens. So what we can do is, whether it's the Wi-Fi signal or CPU signal latency, we can just click this guy to create an alert to let us know when something's going wrong. And I'm going to set this for all platforms when actually, I'm going to set this.
All platforms, yeah, you could say, yeah.
I'm going to go Linux. Yeah. And then you can say, the time window, number of hits before it generates this alert, because obviously if it's just, something that's transitionary, you don't want to get all these nuanced messages to yourself. And then just say when Wi-Fi signal, and keep me honest on this, guys, the greater or equal than, is that the right one? I always mess that up.
It's less than, Tom, it's the other one.
Dang it, I always mess it up.
Less than 60.
Like we said, when it gets below 60%, bad things happen. So let's go ahead and set it to 70%. And we can either set out a webhook, we can set out a custom action. These are scripts that we developed to have it, or just email someone when these happens. And so when someone's Wi-Fi signal goes down, someone's going to get emailed, you're going to have an action sent out regarding it. So pretty cool stuff. And these scripts are right here. You can see we've developed a lot of them over the last year or two. I'm going to take a look at the Linux ones here. The Stratodesk is based on Linux, so we can use a lot of the same scripts here to see it. And let's go back to the devices here. I'm going to go back to that Stratodesk one, pop into it, and then we can run the action on it. Right there, I can start that core DD process again, or me and Rich were talking about this. We were talking to a customer and they said, hey, we have all these nuke devices. We want information so we can go out there and see if they're still under warranty, right? And so develop this quick script to go ahead and get this warranty information.
What? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's actually kind of cool, right? It's a combination of what it does is it actually pulls the serial number out of the BIOS if the BIOS has that information available, and brings it back to the ControlUp administrators, and then actually bounce it against the different vendors' site to tell you whether, and check to see whether or not that serial number is still under warranty.
That's wild.
Yeah. And we know that people want to do mass healing. They don't just care about one device. When you got 9,000 devices, we have 9 to 9,000 devices, and you want to run an action against all of them at the same time, we enable that, which this was one of the first features people wanted as soon as we released our product a couple of years ago, is to do this mass healing. So from this screen, you just pick the devices that you want. And I could get the max CPU core. I could get the warranty information from them. Do you really want to do this? Yep, I do.
Hey, Tom, you mentioned, so along with these alerts and things that you were talking about in these scripts, go back to one of your devices, what device that you showed us, and you looked at some telemetry data, some great KPIs right there, and you clicked the little bell on the right-hand side to do an alert. But we can also do alerts off of things that aren't shown in the UI here also, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We can go do alerts there. And we have a few configured. This is for those, and then this is a pitch to you, Rich. Is when Windows devices get blue screen of deaths, which which you guys don't have. It'll detect it and then go ahead and send it out and alert people to it. So basically, we have this huge index of data, and any of these metrics that we collect, we can pretty much alert on. That
index then has all those fields. Go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say, I think one of the things that's kind of eluded us here, right, is the importance of understanding, because of the way our operating system is, because of the way that ControlUp works, and because of the work that we've done together, there's a lot of things that you can do jointly, either from No Touch Center or from ControlUp console. Somebody asked about the shadowing. Yeah, you can shadow a Stratodesk device from the ControlUp console. You can, as Tom kind of skipped through real quick, you can actually run commands and tasks from the ControlUp console, just like you can from No Touch Center. So it's a combination of the two platforms together that gives you all the power over those devices, whether it's groups of devices or individual machines.
Hey, Rich, I don't want to call you out, or maybe I do. We just invoked multi-monitor in our remote assist. Do you know if you guys support multi-monitor, or does it show up, all the monitors show up as like really small little screens? Like we can pick which one we want.
So we actually show it as as the display is delineated in No Touch OS, meaning if you have multiple monitors and it's a single screen, it'll show up as a single screen. Now, the resolution can be a little challenging, right? Depending.
We just did a thing where we can pick which screen we want to dive into.
So, well, most of the time with ours, I mean, it's, the users are merged, right? So it's one large desktop.
Yeah.
And we'll hop into that in just a second. Jim was asking about scripts. Yep, you can use Bash, you can use PowerShell, Python, a bunch of different scripting languages. We don't want to tie you down to one when we want you to pick the best tool for the job. Oh yeah, so we were talking about, scripting, remote access. You can, pop up a remote shell, because sometimes it just takes a single command to solve a problem or get additional information. So right there we go, as opposed to SSHing in or using Stratodesk can also do this, right, Rich?
Yep.
Yeah, so it just gives you another tool so you don't have to bop around to it. And then we were talking about remote control. We have remote shadow, remote control. Remote shadow, just looks at it. Remote control lets you interact with it. We do know privacy is a major concern, especially for our customers in Europe. And so these can be locked down. So, you can either disable them or force the user to acknowledge that someone is looking in on their desktop. Well, let's go ahead and start remote control here. And as Jeff said, we do support multi-monitor, so you can do it. So what we're looking at right here, what we're looking at right
selection
is the actual thin client itself. And wow, someone isn't doing work-related stuff here. That would be me.
But what's interesting about this, Tom, is the fact that you're doing remote over remote over remote here, and it's actually not bad performance.
Well, right, yeah, and then streaming this 2K video on top of that. So
Well, and again, right, think about what's happening here. You're remoting into the device, shadowing that from your machine, and then sharing this over Zoom.
yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yep. And so yeah, because this is a remote desktop in Florida. I'm in Vancouver. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And another neat feature that we just implemented is the send files, retrieve files. Say we want to grab your log files, Rich, we can go ahead and do that from this console as well. Or you have something that you want to inject into that a file, maybe do some debugging. You can also send those files all from the same location. That was another one of the requests that we got on early on. So yeah. Oh yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other things we do. We have different dashboards here. We have a bunch of pre-configured different dashboards. Maybe want to take a look at the network latency overall in the aggregate and see what's going on, the big picture going on. And so this is showing us devices by latency by devices. We go out there and ping 3 different locations. The first one is, Google 8.8.8, because we always know that's, going to be a good location. And then you can pick 2 others that are kind of pertinent to your environment.
Wait, Tom, you're saying the device itself goes out and like pings these locations and brings back that latency information and displays that here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it looks like I haven't configured one for target number 3. Also the Wi-Fi strength, so how your Wi-Fi strength is doing overall. And we even go out there and separate out by ISPs. We kind of have that inside as well. Maybe one of the ISPs isn't performing as well as the others. We also do trace routes. We go out there and do a trace route, and these are the longest ones. These are the devices they're coming from. Other dashboards, let's see, is that the performance one?
Hey, Rich.
I was gonna say, Tom, let me inject here. I mean, because the reason a lot of this information is important, right, is mutually, ControlUp and Stratodesk has, several customers that have call center agents, right? And so you can imagine these call center agents, sitting there at their desk doing their work, and then let's say Comcast has a problem or AT&T has a problem, what have you, and suddenly the latency gets increased from the user in certain regions. the call quality for them calling outbound or receiving calls, doing customer service is going to impact their business, right? So it's important to be able to catch these metrics and see this data real time. So
Actually, Tom, go to the map view.
All right.
I just like bossing Tom around, and then yeah, then you exactly go your latency, network latency there. You need to see that this is regional, right? We can also do a deal where we the customer tells us what IP addresses they have for what buildings or subnets, and then we can even drill down on what subnet might be having a problem.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. So yeah, so we have all these different device reports. I'm sorry, go to reports. You can create your own reports, or we have pre-configured reports. You know, maybe want to just see the hardware and operating system. You know, what are people running here? You know, how's their battery health? You know, if you want to forecast, if you're a manager, want to forecast, you know, what kind of money do you need to allocate to new hardware, things like that. So all this information is stored in this database, and
the battery health is not just the percentage of battery life they have. That's the actual health. And what we've seen is if it gets below 50%, like that health, not the charge, the health is just crap, and that thing needs to be replaced.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and you can export these to CVS, so you can do further manipulation on them if you want.
Rich, what are some of the things that, you know, some of your customers are struggling with that you could just challenge Tom to show?
well, you know, and I think you know, the home agent latency and Wi-Fi signal thing has been the biggest challenge over the last several years. I mean, obviously the pandemic highlighted that, but you know, I think, and again, that's, you know, the advantage over the last couple of years of Stratodesk and ControlUp working together. We've managed to come up with a great solution and being able to be more deterministic about, you know, user issues. In fact, one of the things that I was just thinking about was while Tom was showing the map, imagine, you know, the ControlUp administrator sitting there watching this, and all of a sudden they see that, you know, let's say in the East Coast, there's latency increases for a specific carrier. And they go, you know what, we need to move all of those users that are using our storefront server or our Horizon servers on the East Coast. We need to reconfigure them to connect to a different connection broker, right? So then you can immediately jump into the no touch center, go to those groups of devices and say, hey, instead of connecting to, you know, server 1, I need to connect to server West Coast. Apply.
Wow, how cool is that?
And now all those machines are suddenly connecting to another environment where, hey, I don't have to worry about that AWS region or that, you know, whatever region being impacted because of latency. You can suddenly move all those users, and it's almost real time, and almost, you know, the end users almost don't know it, right? They'd call and say, hey, something's not working right. We go, yeah, we already mitigated it. Just go ahead and restart your session. Boom.
Wow.
Problem solved.
Yeah. So how this session actually kicked off, I did a blog about just, I was interested how resource intensive these different tools people are using, OSs people are using to connect to the desktop. And so on this actually 750, you know, I ran Windows on it, I ran Ubuntu, and I ran Stratodesk on it. And I monitored things like the CPU and memory, and you can see Stratodesk here at the very bottom. You know, when the Horizon client isn't running, it's using like nothing. And even with the Horizon client running, you know, it uses 5% of the CPU. Ubuntu uses double that, and Windows, of course, uses considerably more. Yeah, and Rich, that's just because you got a stripped down OS. You just put the bits that need to be in there, right?
Yeah, it's a combination of, you know, look, our development team has done a fantastic job of recognizing what dependencies, what libraries, what services are needed, and minimizing our OS to only include those things that are absolutely needed to provide, you know, the Horizon sessions, the client sessions, those kinds of things. And the advantage of that is you obviously you get this performance. At the same time, you're eliminating all those potential attack vectors, right? Because anything that's not needed is being removed from the OS. So it's important to understand that, you know, and I'm glad you have it here as Ubuntu and Stratodesk, because I mean, although we are Ubuntu compatible, we are not Ubuntu OS. So it is a Stratodesk OS. So
Yeah,
like you said,
highly
all those things have been eliminated. So
yeah, highly
Yeah,
optimized.
real quick, I have the answer to one question. I was doing some digging on the back end here. It says, does control relay any information to a SIEM, SIEM, so it can meet SOC and other auditing requirements? And the answer is, we have the system events. We do have all the system events. We just don't forward them by default to a SOC. So sorry.
Nope, that's fine. And memory, same thing. You know, Stratodesk, you guys using half a gig. You don't even get up to a gig when you're in the native client, as opposed to Ubuntu, you know, using you know, 2.5, and Windows using more. And when I first did this, I thought, you know, maybe that's something quirky about the Dell 750. So I ran on this little mini form factor PC, you know, same thing, you know, the numbers were real similar. And I think what really matters is that single thread rating as opposed to the number of cores, because you guys usually just run, you know, one, maybe two cores, 2 thread processes, right, Rich?
Yep.
You don't do a whole lot of multitasking. Wow. So, yep. So what does this mean? You know, run an assessment on Windows machines, and, you know, maybe you can repurpose those old PCs that really aren't powerful enough for Windows or can't be updated to Windows 10 or 11, right, Rich? I imagine you're seeing a lot of that action.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm gonna, you know, kind of mess this up a little bit, but if I recall correctly, mid to late last year, there was an announcement of what devices are going to be eligible for Windows 11 upgrades. And there's a significant number of machines out there that are i3s, i5s, i7s that were shipped running Windows 10 that are not Windows 11 eligible. So you can you imagine, you know, if I'm the CTO, or, you know, and suddenly I've got these fleet of machines that I can't update, so they're going to be security issues. So am I supposed to take those to the dump? I mean, what an environmental issue that is. But by the way, as you pointed out, put no touch OS on them, right? You now have central management. You have this ControlUp, you know, the abilities with them. And by the way, they're probably going to perform better than they did when they shipped with Windows.
Yep.
Right.
And you extend the life of those machines.
Yeah, and so these next couple charts are just some of the interesting things that actually me and Jeff did with this data. We had this customer working with it, had, you know, over 9,000 devices. So we had this great data set we could work with, and I took it, exported to Excel so I could create some kind of fancy charts with it, you know. And so one thing we did, you know, models of devices this customer had, they had, you know, just this wide range of devices, which is kind of interesting in itself. But what we ended up doing, and these were running Windows. Sorry about that, Rich.
Hey, they're out there, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, actually, it does matter, because these guys were seeing a lot of blue screens of death on one particular device, and this was an older device. You can see that 23% and the blue screens of death were coming from 16% of these devices, right? So just this whole not alignment. So maybe these are devices that they want, you know, try running Stratodesk on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, all this information we got from EdgeDX, and then we went through and looked at the application crashes in Windows. And again, this one device, you know, 56% of the crashes were coming from 16% of the devices. So, you know, interesting insights you can get from this data. Also just pulled out the GPU information from it, and, you know, the NIC information, just because I could, right? Just because I wanted to make fancy charts.
Well, and what's not, I mean, that's great seeing that stuff, you know, Tom, but what's not seen there is the fact of what the impact is on the user experience.
Oh,
well,
geez, yeah.
Well, I think this right here is the impact.
Well,
there.
you know, I mean, yeah,
User frustration,
user
help
frustration,
desk
exactly.
calls.
Yep.
I read somewhere, maybe I made it up. People would rather go to the dentist than call help desk.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
Well,
so I do.
hey,
Oh,
we
go
made
ahead.
that easy. Press Control Alt I. It sends a notification to the help desk.
Yep. So as we kind of wrap up here, I need to give a plug to our ControlUp community. If you're a ControlUp user, or if you're not and just want to kind of get a better feeling for us, we do have this ControlUp community hosted by the great Doug Brown. I think most people know Doug Brown. He was with been around the industry for quite a while. He set up this great community where you can ask questions, do stuff like that. So if you aren't familiar with it, definitely go out and reach it. So one of the questions we had early on, Rich, and it was from, let me see, Steve. I remember it's Steve because he's from my hometown, Longmont, Colorado. So go Frogs, fighting frogs in Longmont.
gosh.
Stop it. He wanted to know if there was a trial version of a Stratodesk.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to, and I'll probably butcher this, but yeah, if you go to stratodesk.com and just search for free trial, there is a form, you can fill it out and you can get the downloads. You'll actually get the downloads for No Touch OS and No Touch Center. And by the way, No Touch Center, the management platform, like I said, it's really easy. It's like 7 clicks and you'll have it up and running in 15 minutes. You'll have a full operating environment. You can play around. You can run No Touch OS, on a machine that you may have sitting in the closet. You can run it as a virtual machine. Interestingly enough, we actually have people running No Touch OS on some Chromebooks, right? So if it's an Intel-based Chromebook, you
Huh.
can convert those over to a Wi-Fi laptop.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. So 15 minutes you can get the no touch OS going, right? Get your tenant provision. It's about the same thing for ControlUp. You can get a demo environment running in just like 5 minutes to create the tenant, and then deploy the agents out to the physical machines. Or then, and once you have that tenant name and then a key that we provide, then you can configure the No Touch OS to deploy that key and agent down to Stratodesk. So basically within 20 minutes, you could get going what you saw here today. Is that about right, Tom and Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw how interactive, how quick the interface was, this web-based interface that we have. And whether you have 100 devices or 9,000 devices, it's pretty much just the same experience, because we're running this in the cloud. We're using cloud resources. You don't have to hire any infrastructure, and it really is this quick, even with large number of tenants. Let's see, another question here. This one is actually
Honestly,
from
Tom,
okay.
we threw out some dashboards at first that had, I would say, some scalability issues, but as soon as the dev team was aware of like how many columns and rows that people were wanting to use, our dev team got right on it, and it was amazing. It was amazing how fast they sped up all of these reports.
Yep. Oh, so the question, it was from Aaron in your backyard there in Nashville. You're in Nashville, right, Rich?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. He wanted to know the difference between remote DX and edge DX. Do you want to take that, Jeff, or do you want me to take that?
I'll take it real quick. If I screw it up, you can do it. So remote DX is basically for our customers who have primarily VDI or a DAS. So there's really, at that point, there wasn't an agent installed on the endpoint device, and we were doing all the telemetry on our VDI and DAS and our hypervisors. But then a lot of those customers ran into only network related issues. So we have something called remote DX that complements our real-time DX for VDI and DAS, that only gives us, or gives you, network telemetry, which is amazing, which solves a lot of problems. But if we want to dive deeper onto the CPU, the RAM, the events, the services, everything that Tom showed, then you use Edge DX, even if they're still using the solution, the Stratodesk solution, primarily for VDI and DAS. EdgeDX gives us the deeper telemetry that you saw here today.
Yep.
How did I do, Tom?
You did really good. And there is a question from Jim he's going to be sorry he asked that question, because I know you love talking about this. Do you see the question from Jim there, Jeff?
Devil's advocate, my clients do not buy tools for IT staff. IT must contribute to the bottom line, not just be at overhead cost, no touch, and the center clear. I like the part, but I'm missing the RI proposal. Yeah. So the RI for ControlUp is, why are so many tickets? I mean, you have System Center Configuration Manager, or you have Intune, or you have AirWatch, or you have all of these things. Why are those things? And I sold half of those things for many years, and I thought I was selling not just a device configuration management tool, even though that's what it was. I thought help desk would be using this to help troubleshoot and remediate. I thought that my whole career when I was at Microsoft for about 13 years, I thought I was selling a troubleshooting remediation tool, System Center Configuration Manager, or Windows Intune. So why are we still fighting problems on troubleshooting or remediation? It's because those tools don't give me the actual telemetry to find and solve problems on the device. They will do patch management, they'll do inventory management, they'll do control the device. There's no benefit to solve problems faster or reduce tickets. So we have a Forrester study, I think 3 years of ROI, had like 231% ROI over a 3-year period of time, backed by Forrester. So the hard numbers are you reducing tickets, or are you preventing tickets? In fact, the tickets that even come in, we can, I don't think Tom mentioned it, we can auto create a ticket in like ServiceNow or some other ticketing functionality. In fact, what we're working on right now, you auto create a ticket, you auto fix, you auto do auto remediation, auto close that ticket. So we could even track on how many tickets we're avoiding. So our ROI is definitely there. We're not just another IT. Well, we are another IT tool, but we are meeting a need that device management tools are not addressing. Period.
Well,
Yeah,
and
How's that?
I was gonna say, and let me add to that, Jeff, because certainly, part of the advantage of Stratodesk, to Jim's point, is that all the devices are configured the same. I know what they have, I know what OS they have, I know what versions they have, so what is the added ROI of ControlUp? And I would say, the added ROI with ControlUp with Stratodesk is the real-time monitoring and the real-time collection of information. Meaning, look, I know that I've got 5,000, 15,000 devices out there that are running this version of Citrix, this version of Horizon, this version of Stratodesk OS, and suddenly I've got users on the East Coast that are reporting problems, or I've got one user on the East Coast. You can start to see those trends and recognize, maybe did somebody update something in the storefront, so now that version of Citrix is causing problems. Oh, now I can go into No Touch Center and update all of those devices to the latest version of Workspace app, because the Citrix team didn't tell me they changed NetScaler.
Hey Tom, go back to the map view really quick. We had a customer. The help desk called this end user and said, "Hey, did your device get stolen?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Why is it in Chad, Africa?" They're like, "Okay, it was stolen." Hey, everyone, we only have a minute or two left. Thank you for all your questions. We are going to be this is what has been recorded, and we're going to be posting this and sending out that link to everybody who had joined this, so that you can all share it. But first, Tom, lightning round. One quick value prop that ControlUp and Stratodesk give companies or end users.
For ControlUp, close tickets faster. I'm all about that. And Stratodesk, just so easy to repurpose the devices and, reuse, recycle, repurpose. So Rich, hat tip to you guys for keeping our landfills free of computers.
Hey, Rich, what's lightning round? What's your quick value prop for this Stratodesk and ControlUp partnership?
Well, certainly, obviously the ROI that we talked about just a moment ago, and I would say actually, rather than go into that, I'd say one of the things to remember about this session, right, is again, you can get the evaluation from ControlUp, you can get the evaluation from Stratodesk, between, the opportunity to be able to run ControlUp in the cloud, run No Touch Center in the cloud, and download No Touch OS on a zip drive. To your point earlier, Jeff, you could have No Touch OS on a repurposed, out of the closet device, running in 5 minutes, connecting to No Touch Center in the cloud, managing that device and reporting into ControlUp. And literally all you need is one repurposed laptop or old thin client. So you can have it out in this, everything we've done today, you can have up and running in, 15, 20 minutes.
That's amazing. Hey, Tom, Rich, thank you so much for your time today. Everybody out there who's stayed on to the very end, thank you for your time today. My name is Jeff Johnson, jeff.johnson@controlup.com. Reach out to me if you have any questions, either for Tom or Rich, and I'll make sure I forward those to them. We appreciate your time with us today. You have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. It's been
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks everyone for joining.
Cheers.